Welcome everyone to Sunday's Scoop. My name is PSK. Today is Sunday, February 27th, 2022. So welcome, thanks for tuning in. Real quick disclaimer, this video is for educational, informational purposes only. This is not any buy or sell recommendation advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Please do your own due diligence, and there's always risk in the market, so make sure you do your own diligence there. So let's jump into it. All right, so this week, as far as earnings go, always like to start off talking about what we got for the earnings for the week. A lot of consumer spending type names this week. We got Target, AMC, Best Buy, Kroger, Costco. Even some of these names that are going to be considered tech names or anything like that are still very consumer driven. You know, think about something like Zoom Media, which is not only consumer, but with businesses. You have Gap, a little bit of some more retail names in there, as well as like Kohl's. But overall, just still a solid week. Some popular names mixed in with some tech names. But it is going to be a busy week, regardless even of the earnings. So let's talk about kind of what we have going on for the macro calendar. Real quick, just looking at coming into Monday, we have the Chicago PMI. It really shouldn't matter too much, but we do have a lot of Fed speak this week. If you notice, Bostic is speaking on Monday, Tuesday. Then we have Powell, who's actually going to be testifying in front of the House Committee, the Finance Committee on Wednesday. It's going to be very interesting to see what he has to say now that we have the inflation reports as well as the Russia-Ukraine situation going on. So he's speaking. Bullard is scheduled to speak on Wednesday, and Bullard is speaking again throughout the week a couple times. And then Powell will testify in front of the Senate on Thursday. This is something that he does after every single FOMC meeting, so this is nothing new. This is not like it's out of the norm. He has to go in front of Congress and testify. And then we have non-farm payroll, which has always been really important to the markets for the last few months. And you notice that the market is moving on this non-farm payroll number, but right now this number is falling to the background a little bit more because of inflation. That CPI, right? That CPI and PPI, that's what the market cares about right now. And I talked about this in the last couple of videos is, once the market stops reacting to a data point, and I can give you one, is the initial job claims and continuing claims. If you've been trading more than 2 years, from the COVID pandemic lows, once the market really started paying attention to the continuing claims, initial claims, and then once we started getting to a point where that number would come out and the market stopped reacting, it tells you the market is comfortable with that number, or that data point is not important to the market anymore. And the non-farm payroll is kind of moving that way, and inflation is taken over. And there's always a data point or a macro data point that the market cares about more than others. And it tends to shift around quarter to quarter, year to year, depending on what it is, depending on what's going on in the world, right? It's no different than anything else. There's always a wall of worry for the market. And right now it's CPI and PPI, and it has been for a few months. So that non-farm payroll is important. The market may react to it, but you're not going to see that reaction like we saw, say, 6 to 12 months ago, where that number was crucial to what the market was going to do next. We'd see big swings off that non-farm payroll number. And it's always that first Friday of the new month. So, and it's for the prior month. But but it is going to be a noisy week. We have the Russia-Ukraine situation. We have ADP out, ISM, non-farm payroll, PMI, Powell testifying, Bullard speaking. So we have all of that on top of everything else that's already going on with inflation and rates and Fed, and so there's just a lot going on as far as the market to digest this week. Then you throw in some earnings. As far as some headlines this week, we do have a couple conferences going on. We have the Mobile World Conference trade show going on this week. There's going to be a lot of, obviously the mobile carriers will be there, and then their suppliers. DraftKings is scheduled to hold an investor day, so look for some headlines from there. As far as just an ETF review, I'm not going to get into oil and gas and energy and all that stuff because we already know what's going on there. But to me, one that kind of stuck out was this cyber. This one saw the biggest weekly volume that it's seen since its inception back in 2016. And I'm actually going to be watching a few of these names for continuation. PanW was a great one for me last week. CRWD had a nice day in it. Cyber had a nice day. FTNT had a couple nice days. So I'm going to be watching these names for continuation. A lot of times when you get these big macro events or these big, you think about why it's happening is because of the Russia-Ukraine situation. We're seeing increased cybersecurity attacks. These momentum plays can play out for much longer than you think. It can be more than just a 1 or 2 day thing. It could be a week, maybe 2 week momentum thing. Now, it doesn't mean there's not going to be consolidation days or maybe little pullbacks, but overall that momentum can last for a week, maybe even 2, depending on how that situation goes. And then you're going to have some companies. There's been a lot of headlines out over the weekend. Companies stopping doing business with Russia. UPS, FedEx are halting shipments into Russia. You have banks, other businesses not doing business with Russia, any kind of Russia type business. But the 2 sectors I'm watching the most coming into Monday are going to be cybersecurity names, and it's going to be some of the semis, some of the main staple semis. AMD is going to be one of them. They announced that buyback, that the board approved that buyback on Thursday night. Saw some nice move on it off of that on Friday. Nice grind to the upside, closed near the highs. So reclaim the 200-day, back over the 20-day. What I'm watching for is if it does have follow through, looking for something around the 100 EMA, also this fib extension right around 125. If that happens and we get through there, then I think the 128s right there at the 50-day moving average would be kind of that next target. Again, this is all going to be market pending. If we have any follow through, if the market just rolls over and we see weakness, I do not expect semis to counter trend the market. But if we do hold up, we do grind sideways or even higher, then I'm going to be watching these names. NVIDIA is going to be in that same situation. Back over the 9, back over the 20, see if it can grind towards the 20-day. It kind of shrugged off that cyber attack news pretty well on Friday. So I'm going to be watching that as well as OWN. This one is not talked about as much, but this is a nice couple days here. Some good, decent volume came in on these. The chart overall is still holding up very well. You can see this didn't even come close to testing the 200-day or even back testing this low. So this one didn't fall off as hard. And this is what I want to look for. Names that that held up really well in a big sell-off. But a strong day out when the market rebounded off the lows and then back over the 50-day on Friday. So we'll see if this can have any kind of follow-through continuation of the upside. And I think it could be more semi-specific rather than just kind of as like individual names within the semis, not the entire sector. Although that does tend to lift most of the other names. But as far as going through scans, looking at some other things, something that really stuck out to me was agriculture. There is a ton of agriculture charts breaking out right now, and I don't usually trade a ton of agriculture names. I've traded John Deere, Cummins, Cat, things like that provide industrial equipment for farmers, but the actual specific names I've not traded. But this BG, this is a great looking chart, breaking out of a 13-year base, breaking out to new highs, has room to run, looks like towards that 120 area. So this is a chart I'm going to keep on watch for the upside. And then the CHKP, just running through scans. This has been a strong chart. If you're looking at this, just continuing to grind all year higher, while the rest of the market has been pretty much grinding lower on the software names. And so this one's breaking out to highs. Now, I'm not looking to get into this one right away. I'm going to keep this more on a watch for like a 9 EMA pullback on the daily. But maybe even back test this 135 area. but watch for kind of a flag setup, some sort of pullback digestion on this as it's breaking out. But good looking names, something I'm keeping an eye on that I'm going to watch for the week. So just to go over some of the markets, just kind of look at the broader index. This white line is where I had drawn the other day off a weekly and a monthly chart. This is where we had spent a few months of consolidation right around this 41.26 level that it back tested and held, while we went through some consolidation on the market here. A lot of times those longer time frame, the longer it takes to build a base over time, the stronger that area can be. So when we got that dip into the market, that offered a nice risk reward for a bounce on Thursday off those lows after we got the Russia-Ukraine invasion on Wednesday night on that big 3% down move overnight. But nice follow through day on Friday to the upside after we had some positive headlines in the market regarding that situation. So what I'd be watching for this week now is if we do, obviously this is all going to change by the morning, but just looking at it now, if we do continue to grind to the upside, we do have resistance along with the 20 EMA right over at 415 into 420s. If we can get over 4,400, if we do just kind of go sideways for a couple of days or maybe pull back a little bit, we're going to want to see some of these levels hold, maybe have an inside day before it makes another leg up. What I was looking at is on Friday was, what were we going to have one of these days where we had the big gap down bounce and then we kind of just faded it all right back off that day, or was it going to be this day where we had the big move to the upside with a continuation day? And that actually continued on for 4 days. So what I'm going to be watching for is if we get this kind of move that we saw into February, end of January, into February, into March, because we have tomorrow is the last trading day of February, and then we're into March. So let's see if we can, if we do get any continuation, if we do gap down because of what's going on with the Russia-Ukraine situation, not just constant battling over the weekend, fighting with the war there. The market is going to be very driven off these headlines. And until something changes or they have some sort of stalemate, you just have to be, if you're a short term or you're an active trader in the market, you just have to be very cognizant of your risk, especially your risk overnight. There's a lot of people making predictions on the market. I would just ignore a lot of that noise. Just stick to what works for you. Stick to your strategy. But and I even mentioned this in the last video. When we get these big volatility swings, these big up days, these big down days, I'm only looking to actually trade a couple stock names, individual stock names. But I'm focused more on trading the indexes, because you never know when we get these big bouts of volatility, especially when they're headline driven, what stocks are going to move and what are not individually. But the indexes are always going to move, and they're going to have good range, and they're going to have good price action compared to, say, some individual names. This happened a couple weeks ago with Amazon, where the market was selling off, but Amazon really didn't do anything. Kind of this like this sideways day here. It didn't really go anywhere. I think it was back actually in here. But, when the market has big volatility or making big swings off headlines, for me, I think it just makes more sense to try to trade the indexes versus try to stock pick and then get stuck with a stock that's not really doing much. So that's just kind of my advice. Keep an eye on the VIX this week. If the VIX continues to fade off and we stay below 30, we start actually losing below 25. That 25, anything below 25 would mean, to me, the market is just not as concerned about the downside risk, and that maybe we grind a little bit here into March. But if the VIX can still stay above 25 and starts creeping back over 30, anything is game day to day. And I think you just have to be very, very cognizant of your risk and your position sizes and how many stocks you're trying to trade. Keep an eye also on cryptos. Bitcoin has been I would say it seems to trade with growth names. To me, it's kind of a risk indicator on growth. So if Bitcoin is ramping to the upside, there's a good chance that tech or growth names could see a bounce. If Bitcoin's getting hit hard and fading off, then it's probably risk off on growth names. It doesn't mean value names can't go up. It doesn't mean gas and energy can't go up. It just means that, if you love to trade tech or growth names, they're probably not going to be grinding to the upside. So just keep an eye out for that stuff. I'm focused more on some of these cybersecurity names, a couple of the semi names going into the week, but for me, it's very much been day to day, just picking out what's in play, what has range, what's moving with the market, right? What has the best price action, what has the best trend. Anything else I'm trying to avoid. So hope the video helps. Hope if you have any questions, comments, any future videos, please leave those in the description below. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.